Welcome to another episode of SportsVibe. I'm Arnav Sarkar here with Jitesh Ramakrishnan. First non-football episode in a long time. I guess we did some of the non-football episodes after the football episodes during the season when we did our weekly recaps. We often had a second part covering the other leagues, but we haven't really talked about them since the NFL playoffs. But it was a big weekend in sports. We had our weekend. The Steph Sabrina 3-point competition, All-Star Saturday night in the All-Star game, the whole usual. We also had the Winter Classic in hockey at MetLife Stadium. We had Devils Fly, huge Devils win there, and Rangers Islanders with a huge comeback win by the Rangers after they were down, I think 5-2 in regulation or 5-1, something like that. They came. I think
they were down.
right.
They were down 4-1, and then they were down 5-3.
4-1.
And they're down 5-3 with a little under 4 to play in the third.
Yeah, that's insane. They came back tied and won in 10 seconds
it helps
overtime.
Well, it helps that the Islanders have one of the worst, if not the worst, penalty kill in the entire NHL. But make no mistake, it's still kind of hard to come back from a 3-goal deficit. And even then, when they rallied it up back to 4-3, Islanders put another one on the board. Then they were down 2 with 4 minutes left to play. Then they pulled Shesterkin, who is struggling all night. And then they're able to rally one off the boards. Mika Zibanejad has the tying goal, and then of course Artemi Panarin steals the show with putting it away 10 seconds into overtime. The goal became the net became dislodged, but the puck went over the line as the net was skating away, so it was still ruled a good goal. Regardless, it's still a great game.
Yeah.
Would have loved to watch it in person. One of my buddies went to the Rangers Islanders game in person. He absolutely loved it.
Nice.
He said the crowd was going nuts the entire time.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, hockey at MetLife. I was seeing the same thing at the Devils game against the Flyers. Some of my friends went to that one. There's a Twitter video of the first goal in that game.
Yeah, Nico Hischier got it in about 32 seconds, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was Hischier's
and then
first goal of the game.
I don't think anyone was expecting. Yeah. I don't think anyone was expecting Nathan Bastian to net 2, especially when he had
2. I know that was crazy.
Especially when he's had 3 goals all year, right? If I remember
all season,
correctly.
And he had 2, right, in the MetLife. That was
yeah.
nice.
I don't.
Yeah, and then he did.
Well, listen. Shout out to you if you had that on your parlay. If you had that on your parlay, you said Nathan Bastian scores 2 goals, and lo and behold, that happened. You probably are living on $1 million right now. So.
Yeah, and then he did the little Tommy DeVito celebration.
Yeah, the gabagool.
Pretty funny too.
No, I'll tell you what I thought was really cool. Yeah. Like during the stadium entrance for the Rangers, they showed up on the FDNY trucks. That was so cool.
Yeah, that was sick. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, so a lot of great hockey there. I mean, obviously as a Devils fan, that was pretty cool to see. I was actually at work, but I was kind of seeing it on on the there's a TV on the background, and because it's in the mall, so I was seeing that. During my break, I was going in between. I was watching some of that, and I was watching part of the All-Star NBA All-Star competitions and stuff like that.
I don't bother watching that garbage. But I mean, like I said, the Islanders penalty kill. That's kind of the reason why they're out of the playoff race at the moment. I mean, they're still in contention with a wild card. I mean, now the top 2 spots are occupied by the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Detroit Red Wings. The Devils aren't too far behind. Same with the Islanders, but I suggest if you want to start making playoff moves, it's time to start winning. The problem is the Devils. They've had no more than a 3 or 4 game win streak all season, but they've never had more than a 3-game losing streak. So Devils have kind of been alternating between hot and cold all season. Their inconsistency has really been something to show, but of course the Devils are one of the most injured teams in the league. But even then, they're not too far outside of the playoff race. They're only at the time of this recording, they're 4 points behind the Detroit Red Wings, and the Red Wings have started to catch a little heat themselves. So it could get wild, and all you need is for Tampa to just suck a little bit, and you got some good luck on your ways. and then we could see what happens. But I wouldn't exactly try and rely on Tampa to suck, because I would say over the last like 6-7 years or so, Tampa Bay has had a very hard time just sucking in the regular season.
That's true. Yeah, great regular season team, and play. I mean, they've had some playoff success. They won the cup like 2 times in a row before Vegas.
Yeah, they won it during the Mickey Mouse year, 2020, and then they won it again in 2021 when the playoff format was totally scrambled. And think about it: in the Stanley Cup Finals, Tampa Bay, an Eastern Conference team, essentially played another Eastern Conference team, the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, that was a weird season. Like that bubble was like weirder than the NBA's bubble.
Yeah, that was the year we had the All Canadian division, and where Toronto was basically gift wrapped the first seed, and they still found a way to blow it. I mean, I could probably say that was the one time I was.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, I could probably say that was the one time I was actually rooting for Montreal. Like, as a Bruins fan, I don't root for Montreal, obviously, and I definitely don't root for Toronto. But I kind of enjoy watching. I kind of enjoy watching Toronto suck. So that first round series, especially when Montreal was down 3-1, that was the. Yeah, I'd like to say that was the first time I rooted for the Canadiens to win, and I was not disappointed.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I remember Toronto. They lost in the playoffs last year, right, to the Panthers, who went all the way to.
Yeah, they lost to the Panthers in the second round.
In the second round, right? And everyone was
in 5. It was a gentleman's
Isn't it like a thing for them to? Yeah, isn't it like a thing for the Maple Leafs not to have playoff success? They're like
yes, and it's something I very much enjoy. It's something I very much enjoy.
Yeah, and they've obviously they've a big rivalry with the Bruins. I saw somewhere like a while ago, like the Bruins goal horns, like kind of like it's like I don't know, it's like a nightmare sound for Leafs fans.
Yes,
like like ends their season. So I know rivalries are fun.
It invokes PTSD.
Yeah, that's their way of saying it, I guess. But anyway, speaking of Canadian teams really having a lot of success this year is the Vancouver Canucks. So I mean, they lead all teams with 80 points. So, and it's kind of funny, and like in a sport where so many players are Canadian, and it's a very Northern American sport, I guess, and European sport, but like a lot of Canadians and the Canadians haven't really done too well, in a while. But I mean, I think the last team to be in the Stanley Finals from Canada was the Canucks against the Bruins in 2011.
No. We just said no. We just said Montreal Canadiens versus the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Oh yeah, never mind. Never mind. Yeah, that's true. But before that,
while we're on the subject of Montreal. But while we're on the subject of Montreal, they're the last team they're the last Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup Finals, which is back in 1993 when Patrick Waugh was still playing, who's the coach of the Islanders, Patrick Waugh. But I mean, it's not like Canada hasn't had the chances. Canada lost the 06 Finals. Edmonton Oilers lost the finals to the Carolina Hurricanes. 04, that was Calgary Flames losing to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Game 7, which ended 1-0, a game which Calgary Flames fans are still very pissed about, and I can understand why. 2011, the Canucks lost to the Bruins. That was so much fun.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of, actually. Yeah.
And even then, like teams like Winnipeg, they've come close to Winnipeg. They reached the conference finals in 2018. They had their chances.
Right.
Let's see.
That's true. I mean, it's not all lost cause. I mean, a lot of them at least make the playoffs. So at least probably 2 of them like make the playoffs per season at least. So
yeah, like really the one Canadian team that is just sucked outright and has like basically zero future at the time right now is the Ottawa Senators. I mean the Ottawa Senators.
They've been terrible for like a long time, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, they had an incredible run back in 2017. Like they had like an amazing unit, and then Eastern Conference Finals Game 7, 2 OT at Pittsburgh. The goal gets hit, Ottawa loses, and you think they would be back, and then they just fumble, and then of course they lost they traded away the first round pick, and I believe the Matt Duchene trade, if I remember correctly, and then Ottawa just flat out sucked. Then they had no chance to rebuild at all, and like you'd think, like after all this time, like especially fostering what they have right now, like they got a good young captain in Brady Tkachuk. Then they got other good pieces right now, but on paper the Senators look like a good team. But that's the problem. It's on paper. Same with the Buffalo Sabres. I mean, I don't know what the hell is going on with those two franchises. Those two need to be following the Steve Yzerman plan, which is going on Detroit Red Wings. I mean, if you talk to anyone 5 years ago, Detroit was absolutely the worst team to watch in hockey, and that's almost without any question. But now, I mean, I anticipated Detroit would start to make their playoff push last year, but they're still not hitting that elite level just yet. But they're slowly churning out wins. They're slowly, showing more resiliency as a team. So I anticipate Detroit, being a wild card team. I don't think they're gonna secure one of the 3 seeds in the Atlantic, because you need either Boston, Florida, or or Toronto to just like collapse. I mean, Florida's the hottest team in hockey right now. That's not that goes without any question. They've been absolutely red hot, and it's kind of scary too. The Bruins, like they've been sliding a little. They've been sliding a little bit, and recently Brad Marchand celebrated his 1,000th game, and I watched the game yesterday against the Dallas Stars where Jeremy Swayman was just an absolute brick wall during the shootout. I love Swayman. But I don't like recently, like the Bruins, they were the top seed in the Atlantic, and really like overall, but they've been slipping lately. Like had a homestand that has been, pretty piss poor. Yeah. So, and of course, Toronto's still going to be hanging around there, so I wouldn't exactly rely on them to fall off. But I mean, it's still anybody's game right now. Detroit's really not that far behind Toronto in terms of points. So, still a lot of hockey left to be played. Roughly about 25 games for every single team. So, still a lot to look out for.
Yeah. I definitely agree with all of those points. Yeah, a lot of hockey left to be played.
And especially Edmonton, the way they started the season, you'd think this is it, they're gone. And next thing you know, they rattle off a 16-game win streak, and suddenly they look like the Edmonton Oilers that we saw for the past couple of years. Now, it's just a matter of can they finally get the big thing done? I mean, come on.
Right.
If McDavid ends his career without having a Stanley Cup ring, that'd be the greatest travesty in the history of hockey. And you could say the same with Leon Draisaitl. He deserves a ring too. So things are certainly going to get interesting in the league right now, and especially when we're talking about Vancouver. Yeah, especially if you saw. Did you see the Vancouver game yesterday where it's 10-7 against the Minnesota Wild?
10-7?
Yeah, we got a football score in a hockey game.
Nice.
Yeah, we had a football score in a hockey game. So Vancouver jumped out to a lead. A pretty sizable lead by a pretty sizable lead by the first period, and then so.
Jeez, that's insane.
Yeah, yesterday. Yesterday the game. Vancouver eventually jumped. They had a pretty good lead, and then the Minnesota Wild essentially scored a touchdown in the third period, and there were 3 hat tricks that game. 3 hat tricks. When was the last time you heard of that?
10-7. That's nuts. I mean, just 10-7 like in itself is crazy, but I mean, 3 hat tricks, but that's even more insane. And usually when it's like a blowout like that, one team has like all the goals, so you might see like 9. I think the last game of the cup Finals, like 9-1 Vegas or something. But this
9-3,
game, both
and
teams had a lot of goals.
yeah, that game is 9-3,
9-3.
and Mark Stone finished the game with a hat trick. The captain of the Vegas Knights.
Right.
He finished the game with a hat trick.
Yeah. I remember. Yeah, I was watching most of the Stanley Cup Finals, but yeah, and this one, 10-7. Wow, that's insane. But I mean, yeah, no, hockey's certainly getting exciting.
More people need to tune into
I
hockey.
mean, yeah,
But the problem is
it's
the
a fun
NHL
sport.
does not.
It is.
The problem is the NHL doesn't know how to market themselves. I mean, Charles Barkley's been on TNT for years, and NHL and TNT has been a partnership for the past couple of years. Charles Barkley has done more marketing for hockey in 5 minutes just talking with Wayne Gretzky about how much he loves the sport than the entire NHL has done with
I've
marketing in
noticed
the last 5 years.
Yeah, they talk. They were in during the NBA playoffs. They'd talk about the Stanley Cup playoffs too, and I thought that was pretty cool that he was advocating for that. I mean,
I'm telling you, Charles
Mhm.
Barkley has done more marketing for the NHL in 5 minutes
Yeah,
than the
for
NHL
real.
has
Like I
done in
hardly
5
see
years.
any. Yeah, I mean they have good TV deals now. What they're kind of I like how they kind of alternate the NBA NHL coverage in the playoffs on NBA I mean on ESPN and TNT, but definitely need to for
Listen,
sure.
while we're on the subject of the NBA and TNT, I feel like it's time to I feel like it's time to ditch ESPN in terms of finals coverage. I want to see TNT cover the. I mean, think about it. Kevin Harlan
I
calling the
know
finals.
inside the NBA is Kevin
Hey.
Harlan's like the GOAT announcer though. He's really
Hey Chuck,
incredible.
hey Chuck, guess what? Hey Chuck, this is the first time you're in the finals in 30 years. You suck. Like
Mhm.
like
Yeah, no,
Shaq,
inside the NBA,
Shaq
imagine
Kenny,
that with for the finals.
Shaq
Oh my
Cheney,
God,
Chuck Ernie.
they're great.
Now
Yeah, overall
I've been saying
they're
it for a
pretty
long
good.
time.
Yeah.
I've been saying it for a long time. Like TNT needs a finals. They need to do one final. Think about it. Marv Albert, he's been a legendary commentator for a decade. I mean, he retired a couple of years ago, of course, but I don't think he's ever called a finals. I might be wrong on that because
Maybe
the deal has been in place for a long time. But Marv Albert hasn't called a single finals in what, at least. I mean, I don't know if he's called a past one, but he hasn't called a finals like a series in, I'd like to say, 15 years.
Yeah, could be. It's been a while. Anyway, while we're on the topic of the NBA, it was NBA All-Star weekend, so I mean,
yeah. So basically,
a lot of
another
great
day
stuff
that doesn't
there.
matter.
Yeah.
I mean, all these
yeah,
All-Star
I mean,
events. I don't
the
care.
All-Star
I don't
game
care
was,
what sport. No, I don't care what sport. NBA, MLB, NHL, NFL. I don't care about All-Star anything. It's just a waste of everyone's time. I mean, All-Star nominations. Yeah, sure.
yeah.
It's fun. It's
the
fun to argue who
nomination,
got snubbed. It's fun to argue who got snubbed, who deserved it.
is.
Yeah, that's true. But I don't care about all this All-Star game anything. I don't care about the dunk contest. I don't care about the 3-point shootout, whatever. Like even in hockey, I don't care about the harder slap shot. I don't care about the skills challenge. I don't care about any of this stuff. And I used to care about the home run derby with the MLB. I used to. And then they completely ruined the format of all of it, and I haven't tuned into a home run derby in about 5-6 years or so. I just get the notification on Twitter saying that, I don't know, Vladimir Guerrero wins the home run derby. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, like I used to be a pretty big fan of like All-Star, like Saturday night. I used to think it's pretty cool. I guess to watch it. I guess growing up, the All-Star game itself, not really a big fan of just them kind of being lackluster. And I'm surprised the East won. I felt like the West had a better team. But I mean,
let's see. Well, let's see. The All-Star game where everyone plays lackluster defense, is that really so different from today's NBA? I don't think so. I mean, Larry Bird said before the All-Star.
kind of, sort of. At least it's like they were trying. Like an All-Star game, you don't even try. Just
No,
do
they
whatever
weren't.
you want.
They never tried. I mean, they never tried. Larry Bird said before the All-Star game, he's like, "Play defense, damn it! Like at least try this time." And what did they do every year? Every year they could. Every year they could care less.
Around,
Exactly. No
Yeah,
one cares.
it's hard to watch that. It's just like, them showing off their skills, whether it's the range or the dunking but it's just gotten worse and worse. And I mean, it's not great, but I mean, I think the coolest part of All-Star Saturday night, I mean, the dunk test was really pretty underwhelming. Although Mac McClung, for the second straight year, I think he's definitely, to go back to back, because he was probably like by far the best dunker in the whole thing. And Jaylen Brown didn't really that wasn't great. But I mean, in general,
I
it's
mean,
just
I told you,
they're
I didn't watch
it's
it
hard.
anyways.
I mean,
I didn't watch it
I didn't
anyways
watch that
because
either
I don't care.
actually. But I think I think the three point competition was cool because they had the Steph versus Sabrina thing afterwards, and she shot from
It,
the men's
it's
line,
just
still
another.
came really
It,
close. Tied
it's
Dame's
just
record.
It's just another
Feel
marketing
like
gimmick.
she deserves credit for that. And I didn't really like that Kenny was kind of like saying she should have just shot from the one line, but she gave Steph a run for his money. Even though she wasn't used to the line itself. But I mean, that was pretty cool to see. And Steph, of course, um, defeated her with 29. She had 26, tied with Dame Lillard. So I thought that whole thing was pretty cool. They definitely marketed that really well, made it exciting, and both of them did better than any of the other shooters. Or well, I mean, like I said, Sabrina tied Dame, from the men's line when she wasn't even used to that, and then Steph topped everyone. So that just goes to show who the best shooters really are. So I don't know. I thought that
again,
whatever. It wasn't really
this is
the
still a
biggest of
meaningless.
deals.
This
But,
is still like a meaningless event. So people are just gonna make an unnecessarily huge deal out of nothing.
yeah, it's just for fun. But I mean, 211 to 186 in the All-Star, it's just ridiculous. And I'm surprised that I feel like the West, they had the better team. But again, it probably doesn't really matter when people are just goofing off. But I mean, the West had Durant, LeBron, Jokic, Doncic, Steph Curry, Anthony Davis. I mean, PG Kawhi. So you have
this like
some
all this
all-time.
matters.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. I thought the West had a better roster. I mean, not that the East is bad, but I mean, their main guys were like Giannis, Tatum. Of course, you got Dame, Jaylen Brown, Tyrese, Halliburton. They played great. But I mean, I thought the West was way better. Then again, it doesn't really even matter in the first place. So there's not really like a need to debate that, I guess. I'm glad we're going back to the regular season on Thursday, and I'm also glad that the big news out of Brooklyn, Jacques Vaughn, got fired from the Nets, and they replaced him, right? They that with the interim, right? Or not with the interim coach. With the assistant, their assistant coach, will take over. And about Jacques Vaughn, I mean, I liked his attitude last year, and I thought he answered questions really well, and
I'll tell you what I liked.
he kind of lit a fire under
I
the team.
love
This
his,
year, though, I mean,
yeah.
not so much. You go ahead.
I'll tell you what I liked about Jacques Vaughn. I loved his beard. That is one magnificent
His beard is great. It was so awesome. It was big, kind of grayed out at the end, but no, I really like his mentality and his attitude, and like how he answered questions, and but it just, I don't know, just didn't really work out. The Nets, I thought, had at least have play and talent, and Cam Thomas is really coming into his own this year. Mikal Bridges, playing well. Not really like superstar level, but playing pretty well. And they have Claxton. They have guys, but I mean, to be 11th in the conference right now. Well, I think I texted you this. There's 12 competent teams in the East, and because the Hornets, Wizards, and Pistons are just like, forget about it. Although like the Hornets are in a 3-game win streak.
You remember?
So out of the 12 competent teams, Nets are 11th. And in a league where 10 teams in the conference make the playoffs, like the Nets aren't going to be one of them. You're telling me, like,
and that's another thing. That's
change.
another thing that needs to be gone. Like the ridiculous play-in crap. But the NBA is never going to get rid of that. But remember when I was talking to you months ago when you're debating about whether the Nets should trade for Lillard or not? Are you happy that no is the right move? Because you are nowhere near title, like nowhere even near playoff contender. No, you're kind of near playoff contender right now, but
yeah.
But you're nowhere near.
They could still make the play-in, but I mean, Yeah, they're nowhere near
still,
title
this pl-
contention. If they
no,
had Lillard,
this
maybe
playing,
they become a second round exit. Like like
yeah,
that's
but at
like
best,
anyway.
but
At
still,
best, yeah, they basically being
this
where the
playing
Sixers
thing
probably
is
are. Yeah,
playing is just ridiculous garbage. Like first of all, we haven't gotten any good play-in games in the past 3 years, or however long this stupid thing has existed, and it exists for a couple reasons. One, for teams to pretend they're more competitive when they're not. I mean, come on, a
yeah,
Charlotte
it seems something
Hornets.
to play for.
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
The Charlotte
Well, I don't
Hornets.
even
Are
think
you kidding?
they're really in contention either. I mean, I think
Well,
that
they
line
played.
is drawn at the Raptors, but
Well, they
I mean, hey,
played
they
playing
are on
games.
the three.
They played playing games
Oh,
against
yeah, well, they have
the
playing games. That's true. Like a
yeah,
couple. Oh, like last
and also
few seasons they've
and
been in the
also
play-in.
reason
Yeah,
number
that's
two.
true.
And also, reason number two, the NBA is just greedy for money with subpar basketball, pretending
Yeah,
to be disguised as playoff games.
that's true. But to be fair, I mean, the Heat from last year, they were like what the finals, and they could have been eliminated in that play-in tournament. So you know what I mean.
And they should
Like,
have been.
so I mean, maybe, but like, look at the run they went on. Like, so you can't like.
No,
They're in an
what
interesting
was
spot
wrong?
this year, where they're.
I'm
Imagine if
just
they
saying
do that again this year.
I'm just saying what was wrong with 1 through 8. Nothing. There's there's nothing wrong
Nothing's wrong.
with.
I like one through 8. Like it's just to get more teams to stay competitive like throughout the length of the season. Like because otherwise, like the Magic would less fun. Everyone else would kind of maybe like the Bulls, Hawks, maybe the Nets like compete, and everyone else goes away. Now it's kind of like the Lions at the 10. So now the Nets and Raptors are kind of still in the mix, and maybe the Hornets are. I don't know, but probably not. But it just keeps more teams competitive and less teams tanking for the
No, no,
lottery,
no,
I
no, no.
guess, because you don't want
No. It does
teams
not.
to start
No,
tanking early.
it does not make teams more competitive. It gives teams more incentive. You got those two words mixed
Incentive.
up. Yeah, it gives them more incentive. Think
Okay.
about it.
That's true.
Even from a
Yeah, that's good.
even from a playoff standpoint, playoff standpoint, like you you have the theoretical ability to get a home playoff game for something that should not be able to be available. Think about it, for the fans, for the team,
For
for the
7
players.
yeah.
That's more revenue for the owners. More revenue.
Yep.
Listen. Here's a rule I'd like to see across the NFL. I mean the NFL across all leagues, and I don't care if you have to drastically alter the playoff formats for this. If your team is not 500 or better by playoff time, you do not deserve to make the
Right.
playoffs. This should apply to the NFL. This should apply to the
That's
MLB.
right.
This should apply to the NHL. And this should certainly apply to the NBA.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
It kind of used to be like
listen,
the Western Conference was like
couple
pretty stacked, and
of
the
years
East
ago.
had like teams like way below 500. But
I mean, come on.
yeah.
You remember Tank Division during the 2020 COVID season? We had the Dallas Cowboys and you, when both of you were 6-10, crying about how you were cheating out of a
right.
playoff spot because of the Eagles, basically saying screw you and let Washington win. And Washington was no better. Washington was what, 7-9 or something? Like, really?
Yeah.
No one
That
wanted
was
to watch
nuts,
that
but
garbage. I mean, come on. We were this close to seeing a 6-10 team in the playoffs. Something like that
yeah,
does
could you
not
imagine?
deserve to be rewarded for NFL fans. Something like that. If the NFL allowed that team to actually get into the playoffs at 6-10, that is a disgrace to the sport. That is a disgrace to competitiveness. That is a disgrace to the players. That is a disgrace to the
Eagles
fans.
beat
And
the
that is a disgrace to the league. No,
Yeah, I
so
remember watching that, and I was upset because I was hoping Giants could get in,
sub-mediocre.
but Eagles. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
that's besides the point.
Sub-mediocrity does not deserve to be rewarded.
Yeah.
Even mediocrity, you could even argue mediocrity itself does not deserve to be rewarded. But at least you could say if you finish the season 8-8, I mean, I guess since the NFL has 17 games now, you can excuse an 8-9. I guess you can.
Yeah, it's like a wild card. Yeah.
But still, like an NBA. Imagine like an NBA team being like 34-48 and making the playoffs. That's theoretically possible right now.
I guess, yeah,
It's a
maybe
it's a
play in.
disgrace to the
I
sport.
would think. So like, I mean, yeah, it is. Yeah, well, that's true, I guess. But
And speaking of
yeah,
disgraces to sport,
yeah,
and speaking of disgraces to sport, I'd like to talk about Anthony Rendon from the Angels. So I don't know if you saw what he said a couple days ago. Remind me again. You're like,
yeah.
I know
I think
he's.
I saw it
Yeah,
briefly.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know you said you're not the biggest baseball guy, but I'd like to read to you what he said. So keep in mind, this man signed a 7-year, $245 million contract after the 2019 World Series where he won it with Washington. And speaking of Washington, we'll get to Steven Strasburg in a minute. But um, so this man, Anthony Rendon, he said back in 2014 that, and even basically reiterated now, and I quote, baseball has never been a top priority to me. I have one question to ask. Then why the hell are you here? And then, like, think about it. Like, I mean, listen,
Right.
Anthony Rendon is nowhere near on the level of like LeBron, Kawhi, Giannis, Tatum, Luca. He's nowhere near on that level, obviously. But imagine if like even Giannis was like, "Oh, basketball was never a top priority for me." Imagine the outrage of that. But there's no outrage here in the MLB. And speaking of the MLB, thank God Rob Manfred is retiring in 5 years. That is perhaps going to be the best thing that's going to happen to baseball in the next 5 years. Rob Manfred being retiring. But anyways, going back to Rento, this man is a disgrace to baseball. Like world champion, sure, you got that up, you got that on you. But you saying like, especially in a job where your job is just to basically make contact and put the ball in play successfully 3 times out of 10 and be a decent fielder, be a key contributor to the team, and like doing all of that for $245 million over the course of 7 years. And you say baseball's never been a top priority for you? Like, why are you doing this? Why are you investing your time, your money, your energy, and your resources into something you could give less of a damn about? It's a disgrace to you. It's a disgrace to the fans, and it's a disgrace to the MLB. It's absolutely disgusting. And I don't know if you saw this a couple of months ago. Anthony Rendon, keep in mind, this man has basically played like since signing with the Angels, he's effectively played a full season's worth, which is 162 games across 3 seasons. That's how injury prone this guy has been since he donned the Angels uniform. And in one interview, Anthony Rendon said, when he was asked, what do you do to change baseball? He said, make the season shorter. You already averaged the shortest season in the league by any players because you barely play. You're basically collecting money to sit on the bench and be injured, Anthony Rendon. Shut up.
Yeah.
As you can tell,
No, yeah, I'll
I'm
get
pretty
the
pissed
point.
off. As you can tell, I'm pretty pissed off by this.
Yeah. Yeah. I
But
mean, it's not the attitude
prob-
to have. I mean, you know, so many
yeah,
athletes like, would like give anything to be like in the MLB or in a top league and, and then,
of course.
some people just like, he just takes it for granted and really like it. Like
No,
that's
he
a
doesn't
crazy
even take
part.
he doesn't even take it for granted. He just doesn't care. But
Yeah, well,
you
that's even worse. It's, there's one thing to be good at it and be like, whatever, I'm good. Like, but he's just like, I don't care. Like, it's not important to me. It's just a job. Like,
it's
no, it's like
disgusting.
it's a it's a career. It's a life. Some people work their whole lives to do.
Yeah.
Like, it's
But
insane.
I
But
promise we and I
yeah,
said getting back to the Nationals, we're going to talk about Steven Strasburg. And here's something that I find a bit unusual. So Steven Strasburg hasn't thrown a baseball in the regular season for about 2 years now. Like it's been very well documented over his career, unfortunately, of how injuries have basically robbed him of a Hall of Fame career. And he's had repeated you know he's had repeated injuries to his elbow, his shoulder, and all this crap. It's really unfortunate, but like even though like he never really formally announced his retirement last year, he was apparently retired. That's the word Mike Rizzo, the Nationals GM, put out during I believe August of last season. And now they're basically forcing Strasburg to try and come back to spring training, even though this man literally cannot throw a baseball. Like his nerve damage and like his injury in his upper body is so bad that he can't throw without feeling like tremendous pain. So of course, they're they're trying to. This could potentially be an issue in terms of contract because Steven Strasburg is owed a lot of money in terms of like deferments already and his interest payments and all that. And even seeing the sense that he basically can't throw since he signed his 7-year deal and is retiring about 3 years later. Like obviously the Nationals would rather not be on the books for a $30+ million contract for 4 years. They'd rather defer that so they could spend up more money. They could free more of that money to spend on like free agent signings and all that. So I can understand that from the Nationals perspective, but even then, like, I mean, sure, you can still make the deferral, but Steven Strasburg is already pissed off by that. And if Steven Strasburg doesn't show up to spring training, this could potentially be, what the Nationals might try and do is put this towards a contract violation, dock him for pay, put up fines, and his contract. I don't know if it could be voided or not within the current guidelines, but something could happen. And all of this is happening in spite of the fact that Mike Rizzo said Steven Strasburg will be part of the Nationals Ring of Honor. So all very confusing timing, if you ask me. What are your 2 cents on that?
No, it's definitely like an interesting situation, but yeah, that is interesting because they said he was gonna retire with his original contract from the one that he had when he won the World Series, but now it seems like they changed their mind, so and they're gonna keep paying him, but he doesn't really know what he wants to. So I don't know. It's kind of like an interesting situation for sure, right?
Yeah, I don't really know how this is going to unfold.
Yeah, it seems like the Nationals, like they kind of backed out of the deal that they originally had. So now, like, because he came back, so that is very interesting, for sure. So I mean, well, yeah, we'll see what happens. Not really sure exactly what's going to happen there in terms of his retirement, whether he decides to continue his retirement or not, or maybe even play for the team. Looks like he'll still be on contract. So I mean, yeah, definitely an interesting situation. In terms of baseball, I mean, spring training is going to start on Saturday, so that's very exciting. We're very very close.
Wait, one more thing I want to squeeze in while we're on the talks about spring training. So, and this is in regards to 2 Arizona teams, not just one. Of course, you and I have both known about the disaster of the Arizona Coyotes, or stadium seatings, attendance, the NHL basically trying to like single-handedly make hockey work in Arizona. The thing is, here's this: Arizona works in hot. I mean, I got that sentence flipped around. Hockey works in Arizona. The problem is the NHL. They have you've heard over the past couple seasons like the troubles with the stadium and trying to find new leases and everything. So it is possible, and I don't want to see this happen. It is possible that the Arizona Coyotes might not be in Arizona after this season, and this also applies to the Arizona Diamondbacks because they've had problems with Chase Field. And Jeff Passan the other day, I think this morning, he said on Twitter that an MLB expansion is inevitable, and Salt Lake City and Nashville are cities that are certainly on the prospect. So could both those teams end up in Salt Lake City? I don't know, but it certainly makes
Probably
for a
one,
very
but
interesting.
I mean, yeah.
It certainly makes for a very interesting topic. But if this were to happen to the Coyotes and to the Diamondbacks, what stops the Cardinals and the Suns from eventually breaking free? Because, well, at the same time, then you could argue that there'd be more focus on marketing those two sports to the people of Arizona right there, the Cardinals and the Suns. So, but things unfortunately don't look too good for Arizona sports, and it really sucks because, like Charles
Yeah,
Barkley
they're
has
just
been
in the
saying
World
for
Series
years.
last year too.
Yeah, exactly. They made the freaking World Series. It's not like the
Right.
Diamondbacks have been absolute crap for 20 years. The Diamondbacks even won a World Series
Yeah.
at the start of this century, and they made one last year. And even then, Arizona has had pretty successful playoff pushes in the past, like not just in regards to last year. So I don't know what's going on,
hmm
but frankly, I
Yeah.
hope those teams can stay. But will it happen? I don't know.
Yeah. Certainly like a year for for the underdogs in baseball, with the Rangers taking on or small market team, the Rangers taking on the D-backs in the World Series. But I guess that's all, in the past now. I mean, we're on to 2024. Spring training starts in a few days on Saturday. I'm excited as a Yankees fan with Juan Soto. That should be pretty exciting. But it's gonna be
The
interesting
only
because
the only problem
Yankees
is
opened their
the only problem is the Yankees still don't really have any good pitching outside of Garrett Cole. So
yeah.
nothing has really
No,
changed from
yeah,
last
about
year in
to
terms of
yeah,
pitching.
but that's yeah, exactly. It's like they went after, but they didn't do what they need to do in terms of pitching
I mean,
in
I
the
mean,
off season.
apparently it's
So I
apparently
mean,
it's reported Blake Snell does have a contract offer with the Yankees. It's just a matter if he signs it. It's reported as such.
right.
What happened?
That'd
I mean,
be good. I mean, yeah, right.
having a
Yeah,
one-two
because
punch of
you
Cole
can't
and Snell,
exactly.
that's a pretty good
That'd be
combination right there.
that would be a good combination for sure. But I mean, it's gonna be interesting. Yankees actually opened the season in Houston, which I thought it's very interesting. It's like, they're kind of House of Horrors or team, it's eliminated them. So that should be quite the start, obviously, two rivals there. But it
And
seems like the
don't
Astros
forget
have had the Yankees number for years. So I mean, yeah, I mean
but
that's gonna be the
don't forget
heck of a start to the season.
Juan Soto had the Astros number in 2019.
Yeah, that's true with the Nationals. That's true. So that'll be an interesting start to the season. Yeah, I'm
And
looking
of course,
forward to it. I mean, hopefully they can
and of
get
course,
off to a good
of
note
course,
there.
talking the Astros,
Yeah.
Jose Altuve had a contract extension. He's most likely going to retire in Houston. And Josh Hader has a 5-year deal with Houston. And now Ryan Presley is the setup
Mm.
man. So uh, the Astros have already had a fairly elite bullpen. Now you could argue they have the best back. They have the best. They have the best back. I forget what it's called. It's not
Batting.
back office,
Right.
but like they have the best two guys like in the 8 and 9 in regards to like the setup man following the closer. I mean, the closer following
Yeah.
the setup man. So Ryan Presley was already a
Right.
dominant closer for Houston, and now you have Josh Hader, who's got one of the most diabolical fastballs in all of baseball. So
Oh yeah.
the Astros aren't just going to go away just yet.
Right. Yeah. It's a little bit unfortunate for the Yankees, and people hate the Astros because of all the the whole cheating stuff. But it's what it is. They're kind of like baseball's. I was gonna say like evil empire. That's a Yankees term, I guess. But whatever. But in any
Well,
case, it should be a
here's the
good season. I'm excited for baseball to come back again, and yeah.
yeah, it should be fun.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was going to say,
I guess before we yeah,
yeah, I
go
was going to
ahead.
say in regards to the evil empire term, like you kind of have to do a bit more winning. But Houston has won two World Series. Well, won one of them, and it's actually won a World Series. within a
with the
5-year span, and
Astros. Yeah.
since 2017 they made every single ALCS. So you could give them
Right.
the Evil Empire label. You could.
Yeah. It's not quite like, it's not quite like up to the level of like, like a dynasty, like, the Chiefs have like starting to claim, but it's kind of like an
You could
Evo
maybe say
Empire-ish, but like, I mean,
you could maybe say the Astros are a dynasty. Maybe I don't know.
maybe. Yeah, they're kind of like on the border, like, but with a little
That's a bit
bit
more
less brass
debatable.
now, but
I mean,
yeah,
here's the thing:
yeah,
like, if
but
the Steelers won the Super Bowl,
yeah,
if the Steelers won that Super Bowl in 2011 against the Packers, we'd be calling them a dynasty because they won in '06 in a horrible Super Bowl against the Seahawks. They won in '09, a
hmm
thriller against Arizona, and then they lost in
right,
11. So if the
that's
Steelers won
true.
that Super Bowl, everyone would be saying they're a dynasty, obviously. And what you know,
Right.
I mean, I personally like Astros already have 2 championships. They made the ALCS in 7 years. They have a combined total of 4 World Series appearances: 2017, 19, 21, 22. So I feel like you could label them as a dynasty. I feel like you can. I mean, and just to prove
Yeah,
my point,
yeah,
the mid '90s to early 2000s Devils were called a dynasty, even though the championships were a bit more spread out. Like they won in an upset in a sweep over the Detroit Red Wings back in '95. Then in 2000 they beat the Stars, and then in 2003 they beat the Ducks. So theirs is obviously a bit more
right,
spread out, but
right.
people are still
Yeah,
referring to the Devils as a potential dynasty. They're using that term. They're using the term dynasty
right. It's
to describe
interesting.
the
Yeah, they
Devils
are
back
a
then.
bit spread out, but I mean, they're in the 10-year span. So yeah, I mean, I could see it. I mean, if the Astros do win some more and they continue to be, forced, like I could see it, especially if they win a few more World Series in there. But yeah. Do you have any like World Series like super early predictions? I guess just to, so we can just like
See,
before we wrap this up, I guess.
factoring in current things right now. Hmm. Let's see. Current predictions because like the thing is the Orioles right now, like Kyle Bradish is injured, one of their
Uh,
starters, but they traded for Corbin Burns, so that
right.
puts them back in the fold. But they still have Felix Bautista out for 2024 because of Tommy John surgery. The Mets,
Oh
they
yeah.
don't seem to be taking things seriously right now, especially with letting
Yeah.
Pete Alonso basically go into free agency this season, which
That's
after the season,
insane.
which is
Yeah.
something I
Right.
really do not
It's crazy.
understand. Um,
Yeah, I mean he's like half of their like runs. Like I mean he's one of the best hitters, or But anyway, it's a different conversation, I guess. But
yeah. Hmm. Early predictions. Right. Oh yeah. I really don't want to say the Dodgers because that feels like a cop out move. So I want to try and say someone
yeah.
other than Dodgers. Um, I think it's possible we get Texas versus Philadelphia again, but not Houston.
Ooh,
I think the Rangers go back to back. I think we could
Rangers.
possibly get
Wow,
Rangers Phillies. I mean, Rangers Phillies
interesting.
almost happened back in 2011. That almost happened, but it didn't. Or am I thinking of
Yeah.
2020? 2010. It might be that year, but we almost had Rangers Phillies. Um, and I mean, I'd like to see the Braves get back to the World Series. The problem is the Braves haven't been able to beat Philadelphia in the past 2 years in the playoffs. So I don't think
Right.
I can pick
Right.
Atlanta this time. What do you think?
Yeah, I know they had such a good regular season too, and then they lost. I don't
Yeah,
know.
they
The
won
Phillies,
23
Red
games.
October years. I was, you know, um, that's I don't know. Like I said, I'm not the biggest baseball fan, but yeah. I mean,
Here, I'll tell you what. I'll make this easy on you. Give me your
um,
homer pick and give me your non-homer pick.
all right. Well, Homer pick. Hopefully, like, I guess if I wanted it to, if everything worked out, I guess the Yankees. But I mean, I could see it, but
Versus
it seems like they need some work.
no, your
Versus
homer pick. Your homer pick. Yankees versus who?
like who I want to see. That's
Yeah.
honestly a really good question. Honest. I mean, Subway Series would honestly be pretty cool. In the World
The
Series.
Mets are. I don't even know if the Mets will
But the
make the
Mets
playoffs.
are not. Oh yeah, I forget. I mean, honestly, like it's weird. I hate like a lot of Philly teams, but the Phillies are
Of course,
in the NL East, and I don't hate them. And on top of that, I've really enjoyed the Red October. Just seeing how that's went for the last couple of seasons, and I have a lot of friends that are Philly sports fans, and since I don't hate them, and they're like kind of like the underdog team, I was like, yeah, this is really cool. Like, look at the whole city, like way better, experience for me than like, when the Eagles like made Super Bowl. But I actually have some, like I side with them like when, they're going on those kinds of crazy runs. So I mean, Yankees Phillies would be cool. Plus it would be like, the World Series.
it'd
Was
be a
that
rematch
the
of '09.
2009? Oh,
Yeah, it'd be
nine,
a
right? So
rematch of
that
'09.
would be a cool one, honestly. So that's the homer
Okay,
one.
all right, give me your non-homer.
Yeah. So then the regular one, um, well, it wouldn't be the Yankees, I guess. Probably like I don't know. I feel like the Astros are probably. I mean, the Orioles like they had a really good stuff going last year. I don't know if they can make the World Series, but that'd be. I think the Astros probably like figure it out this year because it's like kind of like they had a down year last year and they still bring a lot back, so probably go
I
Astros
mean, they had a down year last
versus
year and
the
still somehow won the division. But
right
Texas
exactly.
ultimately got the last laugh.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good series too. So we can go
No, very good series.
Astros.
I mean, I loved Game 5. Game 5 of that series was amazing.
Yeah, no, yeah. That was a really good series, and especially because the two teams are rivals and Texas
I mean,
and all that good stuff. But
remember
yeah,
before the postseason began, I was calling a Battle of Texas. I was calling for the Battle
yeah, I
of Texas
remember. We were
ALCS.
talking about this on the. Yeah, I was hoping it happened too, and we got it, and the Rangers won, and didn't like every team win the road game or something like that in that series. It
Yeah,
was like
yeah. That
didn't like
that was the first.
every single
But
game was won
that's the
by on the road.
that's the second time every single team. That's the second time the the games are won by the road team. The first time that happened, the 2019 World Series, Nationals versus Astros. So
Yeah,
seems like
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, the thing is, the Astros last year, they kind of sucked at home. I think they were sub 500 in the regular season, but they were great on the road, which ultimately propelled them to a win in the division. But I don't know. Astros have a lot changed. Dusty Baker's no longer the manager; he's retired. Um, you know,
Right.
but they still have the overall nucleus right now. They still got Altuve, they still got Bregman, they still got Jordan Alvarez.
Yeah.
I mean, but Michael Brantley's retired if I'm correct. But they still have Justin Verlander. Like as long as he's still healthy, he's still a solid pitcher. Framber Valdez can certainly be a big man. I think Luis Garcia is going to come back from his surgery. So, but probably later in the year. So the Astros will get another starting pitcher back. Of course, their bullpen with Bobby Abreu, Ryan Stanek, and then of course Ryan Presley and Josh Hader. Don't count the Astros out just yet. They're not dead. They may be wounded, but they're not
Right.
dead.
Yeah. Which is why I have them in. I guess yeah. I guess if that's out of the Astros, I'll say Astros Dodgers for my
Oh,
non-homer pick.
2017.
So
That would have a lot of
yeah.
bad blood.
Oh yeah. A lot of bad blood there as well. Former World Series. And, yeah. So I guess I'll go. So yeah, Yankees Phillies homer pick, Astros Dodgers. If I had to predict who would be in the World Series, that'd be my guess. And you said what again?
I said Texas versus Philadelphia.
That'd be an interesting one too, actually. Yeah. Yeah, Phillies Rangers. I could definitely see it with the playoff success both teams have had lately. 2 years of having deep playoff runs, including a World Series loss, and the Rangers winning it all last year. And looks like it's probably set to return like a lot of the same core and stuff. So I mean, could
It's funny
definitely
because
see that.
last postseason, I believe I picked against the Rangers in every single World Series, and yet in every single playoff series, and yet they won. I thought Tampa Bay's pitching was
Yeah,
going to outdo them in the wild card. I was wrong there.
Right.
I thought Baltimore having the 100-win season, they're going to crush Texas. I was wrong there. I thought the
Yeah.
Astros experience would prevail them over Texas. I was almost right until I wasn't. And then I thought the Cinderella story, the Diamondbacks would carry on, and I was wrong there. So where's my ring,
Wow.
Rangers? I basically propelled you to
Yeah.
a championship ring by reverse jinxing you. So
Reverse jinxing. Yeah.
yeah, so I demand a
Yeah.
championship ring from the Texas Rangers.
Yeah. You should probably get one from like the Chiefs too, because you picked against them in every game in the playoffs too, right?
Oh yeah,
Including the Dolphins game.
like
So
like I said,
yeah.
like I said, when I made the pick, like on that one, I knew the Dolphins were going to win. I was just picking the Dolphins purely out of spite. But I thought the Bills had a legitimate
Right.
chance. I thought the Ravens had a
They did.
legitimate chance, and I
They
thought the
did.
49ers had a legitimate chance.
They did. Yeah.
Like I said,
But
the Dolphins pick was just plain stupid. I was just picking that purely out of hatred.
right. Yeah. Yeah. That
The
one
others,
seemed a little bit off.
I mean,
But the others
and to be
like I thought were very
I mean,
reasonable. Yeah.
to be fair, the other last three picks still had hatred behind them, but it was more logical hatred. The Miami game was just
Right.
hatred.
Yeah, because the Dolphins really had no shot, especially with that kind of weather. The other three teams, like I could definitely have seen the Bills winning and the Ravens. I think I even picked the Ravens in that one, and the Niners definitely had a shot. But yeah, and the Chiefs still won it, I guess. So speaking of teams who won in down years, I mean, absolutely insane. I mean, if they get like a receiver, like they're gonna be unstoppable if they can get like one more good receiver.
Who's that guy in the Dolphins again? He's like really fast. They call him Cheetah. Who's that guy
Tyreek
again?
Hill. Imagine if they trade him. Like, oh my god, this team would be like that would be insane. Yeah, someone just
I
like
think Tyreek I think Tyreek Hill catching passes from Patrick Mahomes would actually make a really good offense. Shame we never saw that.
yeah, and what that would be like. Yeah. Anyway, so Chiefs. Yeah, it's well, they won the championship, and that's it's great and
Somehow.
all, and yeah, somehow despite all their offensive struggles, I think it's miraculous that they were able to pull
Like I
that
said,
off
I
in
think
their
I
down
think they're
years.
just fool. I feel like they're just fooling around just to like deceive all the NFL fans, and then they're just
It
like,
could be
okay, it's
this year.
it's the
It's
playoffs.
not.
Let's rip
Yeah.
out these people's throats.
Let's
But
turn it up. I saw somewhere where they're like the Chiefs are just messing around the whole regular season. So Mahomes could, and they're doing side quests. So Mahomes could get road playoff games and prove he could win on their
yeah,
own.
that was probably true.
That's not the worst theory. Yeah, I mean, and hey, like they did it. So I mean, of course, yeah, I mean, of course they had the terrible shooting, and that really was unfortunate. But at least it seems like a lot of the victims, I mean, a lot of them survived, and everything is more or less okay. But I mean, sucks. But I mean, obviously, yeah, the Chiefs, world champions, and yeah, I mean, I think that pretty much covers pretty much everything. In the sports world, we talked about NHL, we talked about the Stadium Series, took a look at the standings, talked about NBA, big second half of that season coming up. Maybe the next season next episode we could spend some more time looking into the NBA standings in more detail, and start thinking playoffs. But and we talked some MLB as that's starting to come around, and yeah, brought it back full circle with the Chiefs again in the NFL. So with that being said, this has been another episode of SportsVibe. Sarkar here signing off with Jitesh Ramakrishnan, and we will see you next week.